We are now just 161 days away from the release of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker by director J.J. Abrams. That is all set and ready to add in many different revelations that will lead to saga-wide implications in this story. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. And I think that's one of the more exciting aspects of Episode 9 is how it's really going to make us view The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens in a different light, and is going to have a massive effect on, of course, the originals and the prequels. Now, I will admit that I am quite, a little worried on this, going a bad route and it's not going to really work well, or if it's not going to resonate with the fans. But I really am optimistic about this, and with J.J. Abrams and George Lucas involved in the story, I think that they really are on the right path here and are going to do something very positive for the Star Wars franchise. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions and one of the plans by Disney, Lucasfilm, JJ, and even George Lucas, this is where things begin to get very exciting for Episode 9. Now, specifically, what's really intriguing about all of this is that it's described that during the rewrites of the film for the months of November and December of last year, is that George Lucas was heavily involved for the writing of the script for the second and third acts of the movie. It's described that one of the key elements of the story is said to explain the origins of the Skywalker bloodline, and exactly who was the first Skywalker, and that the way it will be revealed will change the entire Star Wars franchise, and also change how fans view the Skywalker family. It's described that the first Skywalker is said to be very unexpected to the fan base, and it will come as a huge surprise for the audience, and is said to have been a story element created carefully by George Lucas. Additionally, it's said that the reveal of the first Skywalker is described to be based on an original Legends book that was not approved by George Lucas during the early 2000s and was never published, and they delved into that and abandoned idea to be used for the story in Episode 9. Lastly, it's described that the first Skywalker will be a revelation that will have a massive effect on Revenge of the Sith. So let's go over a couple of parts about this and as to why I think that this is all really pointing toward Palpatine. Now, you guys may recall the original script of Revenge of the Sith by George Lucas, where he had this idea of making Palpatine reveal to Anakin Skywalker that he was the one who created Anakin, and even Palpatine says, "And so, in some way, you can call me your father," is basically a parallel to what Darth Vader told Luke that George wanted to do in Episode 3 that never worked out. So, the reason as to why a lot of fans are very curious about the first Skywalker is that, well, we do know that Episode 9's official title has over 3 different meanings to the actual title itself, which, by far, I think that this is definitely going to be one of the meanings, without a doubt. Given that the first Skywalker is going to be a key element to the story, it definitely is at least one of the 4 or 5 different meanings of the Rise of Skywalker's title. So, moving on forward, the thing that really interests me the most about this is that how this is said to be based off of an original Legends book that was not approved by George Lucas in the early 2000s, that was never published and never saw the light of day. Now, it's actually said that they delved into that idea and used that idea for The Rise of Skywalker. Now, the first Skywalker being in Episode 9, and how it's really going to have a massive effect on Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, it really does make you question, could this very well have something to do with Shmi Skywalker and who came before her, or could it really have something to do with Palpatine at the end of the day, since in the recent comics that belong to Darth Vader in late 2018 hinted at that very thing. So with that being said, the fact that the first Skywalker is a focus in the second and third acts of Episode 9 by George Lucas, and that George was the one responsible for really making that a key element to the story of Episode 9 to benefit some of the characters like, of course, Rey and Kylo Ren and others, even Luke Skywalker, is that, well, I think that this really is a very interesting take by George. It's a very interesting way to really wrap up the entire Skywalker saga and to bring things to an end. After all, this really is the last Star Wars movie associated with everything that we know as we know it within the Skywalker family, right? So, before they move on to the new Star Wars trilogy, they really want to go out with a bang with Episode 9 in order to do something incredible for the fans that's going to keep us talking for years on end, and looking back at The Rise of Skywalker as a new Revenge of the Sith, if you will. And what I really really mean by that is that this movie has the potential to really be the best of the sequel trilogy, without a doubt. So the last thing that I want to touch on here is that we also know that The Rise of Skywalker is said to have a big impact not just on Revenge of the Sith, but the entire Skywalker saga itself and how we view the Skywalker family and their bloodline. So that really does speak volumes by George Lucas and J.J. Abrams and what they're really willing to do, what they're really willing to risk, doing in this movie for a very interesting shock and reveal to the Skywalker lineage and their bloodline and exactly who the first Skywalker really was many years ago. So anyways guys, I would really love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.